Dear companion, we come to the end of my tale. The termination of a journey through 3 stories of the Eternal City, woven around the advent of the disjunction and its aftermath. As a narrator, I stand revealed as the Harlequin, with small parts to play in the first, a starring role for the second, and a stumbling through increasingly reckless improvisations for the third. In the passage of this adventure, the path of the Archon, I learned something from Komorra. It was a pearl of wisdom I had often witnessed, but never truly grasped, until I fell under the tutelage of Asdrubal Vecht. Simply put, it is this: to become the leader of many is to become something other, a being both greater and lesser than the ordinary mortals they rule. Like the gods of chaos, our leaders are constrained to fulfill the roles we imagine for them. Our leaders, our tyrants, our overlords, our despots, call them what you will. They impose their will with the force that we grant them in the mortal. Constrained, I hear you cry. What constrains the gods of chaos except one another? The answer are they are defined by their natures and could not change them even if they wanted to, which they couldn't, of course, as those elemental natures are what grant them existence. So it is with mortal leaders. They become what we want them to be, what we desire them to be, and what we allow them to be. Those failing in our expectations are dispensed with and replaced with something more congruent with the popular zeitgeist. In the case of Komorra, this demands a being of pure terror, a creature so dark and vengeful that it can hold a gigantic city in thrall through the mere threat of intercession. An entity so malevolent that it will hold the all-destroying power of chaos at bay without regard to the cost. The Komorrites, the unrepentant survivors of the Fall, strive endlessly towards anarchy, but deep down in their black hearts, they acknowledge their need for the most autocratically mandated order possible to survive as a species. Perforce all Archons, the leaders and exemplars of Komorra, have become lesser reflections of Asdrubal Vecht, violent, brilliant, manipulative, and ambitious. Beneath Vecht's rule, they can be nothing less than absolutes that have burned away all other considerations other than their lust for power. They are dark flames beside the black conflagration of Vecht's wickedness. One day, and all of them might kindle sufficiently to outshine his brilliance, as Ilithian so very nearly did. But that day has not yet dawned. No one has proved to be as ultimately grasping and selfish as Vecht. Not yet. Such is the path of the Archon. Now I would ask you to take a moment and recall the 3 tales I've told you. In the path of the Renegade, we followed several very different renegades, rebelling against very different things. There was the young Pathfinder, Sindiel, trying to escape his stifling existence aboard the Craftworlds. There was the homunculus Belophonis, rebelling against the strictures of his coven. And there was Archon Ilithian, seeking to overthrow the tyranny of Vecht. All 3 reacted violently against the self-rule called for by their respective societies, and all 3 came to know dire consequences of that action as events spiraled beyond their control. To their credit, Sindiel and Belophonis both acted to try to rectify the situation as best they could. Ilithian escaped only by the intervention of fate and found himself serving an uncertain master. The desire for freedom brings with it great peril for those who would exploit it. Let us call these the Exodites. In the path of the Incubus, we saw those who tread the straight and narrow by obeying the word of their masters, the scions of discipline, convention, honor, duty, and order. The titular Incubus, Mor, stood first and foremost in the tale, but also there was Sirius, the doomed warlock of the Craftworlds, at the head of a squad of dire avengers. This seer and the Aspect Warriors were trained to be so narrow-minded that they regarded Mor as being ill-disciplined and dishonorable, even when he offered his own soul to save the souls of billions. All of them suffered for their unquestioning loyalty and struggled to find new purpose under the bitter lash of failure. The acceptance of duty calls for self-sacrifice in pursuit of an ever-distant goal. For some, the goal is forgotten, and self-sacrifice becomes an end in its own right. Call these then the Craft Worlds. With the path of the Archon, we have witnessed the machinations of the High Lords of Comera bearing bitter fruit. We have seen their ambitions turn their home into a battleground teetering on the brink of annihilation. We have borne witness to how, after planting the seeds of their own ruin, they made others pay the price for as long as they could. We may think then of these being the Dark Eldar. Three tales interweaving, each representing a facet of our fractured racial psyche. Each bears a warning, but also a kernel of hope. Long have the Eldar dwelled in isolation from themselves and one another, denying parts of their existence in the name of survival. Yet the boundaries are far more impenetrable when they exist only within our own minds. Hence the role of humble players such as myself. It falls to us to tweak the nose of fate by crossing boundaries, defying convention, and mocking the absurdities of existence. Among our divided folk, it's the only way we have to show that in this grim, dark universe, there is always something to be learned from that which you most despise. Motley is an outcast harlequin of an unknown mask. Treated with scorn by seemingly all who deal with this enigmatic jester, Motley's intervention does not seem to discriminate between his righteous or depraved kin, though his dealings often align with that of the Drukhari. Watching intently at the schemes of Archon Nyos as he gathered allies to overthrow the tyrant of Comora, Asdrubael Vect, their objective to seize a pure-hearted soul to revive the ancient rival of Vect, El Uriak, would lead them to a verdant world laid claim by the Exodites. The leader of the Alliance's bespoke kill team, Chief Executioner Moore, of the Cabal of the Realm Eternal, procuring Larian Sil Cadeath, their escape into the realm of the Webway posed a potential end to their plot. Intervening to aid their return to the Dark City, Motley pointed the direction to their salvation whilst manipulating events behind the scenes. His gift of the weapon, the Harlequin's Kiss, to the selfish defector, Sindiel, destined to prove crucial in the trajectory to come. The plot of Alithian, successful in reviving El Uriak from his long death, on the eve of the conspirators' feast to pledge fealty to the returned Drukhari Emperor, Motley's plans would be fulfilled. Sindiel attempting to rescue the Exodite Worldsinger from her confinement using the Harlequin's Kiss to end her guardians. The avatar of Moray Heg refused to abandon her role in the events which followed, yet accepted the gift of the Harlequin's Kiss from Sindiel before he departed. El Uriak slain by the effects of the Glass Plague virus, Sindiel freed the Worldsinger from her chains using the Jester's weapon, leaving the amphitheater to be subsumed by a black hole dimension trap unleashed by Homunculus Belophonis, triggering a disjunction. Accompanying the morose incubus, Moore, during his exile from Drukhari society, for killing his own master, Archon Krelak, the Harlequin could not allow the disjunction to threaten Comora as a bastion of the Eldar species. Traveling to the shrine of his begrudging companion, Motley observed the trials of the stoic warrior within the shrine of Ara, preserving his life during an ambush by his peers before being denied intervention during the duel with Drazar, the Living Sword. His true intention to direct Moore as a champion to face the world spirit of Lilia Fenir in order to quell its rage and pacify the disjunction to which the incubus had played a part. With their escape to the world of Ashmirel T, a band of craftworlders would bar their path, allowing for Moore's capture as he left a trail for his Harlequin kin to intervene. His kin of Kegarak donned Drukhari weapons and armor before ambushing the dire avengers of Baal Tan as they traversed the world of Cadolith. Unbinding Moore before escaping to the Webway portal leading back to Lilia Fenir. As Moore marched to face the world spirit, the arrogant warlock, Kareus, followed their trail, briefly blocking the Farseer's path as he slipped runes within his pouch of sorceries. Motley smiled, knowing the preening seer would play his part in the tale to come, unknowingly empowering the incubus to merge with the world serpent. Moore sacrificing his life to end the disjunction, Motley breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that a great threat to the Dark Eldar had been quelled, for in his mind, even such depraved souls would be necessary to prevent his species' extinction. Aiding Asdrubael Vect in bringing order back to the domains of the Dark City, in order to bring rise to a united species, Motley would make any and all alliances of convenience to facilitate the schemes of his benefactor. Venturing to the subrealm of the Sable Marches, following the destruction of Comora, Motley intervened to aid the Mask of Vile, investigating signs to locate the culprit who had ravaged the Sundered Craftworld, stealing its Wraithbone and Spirit Stones. Alongside the Sun King, Ashan-Foras, Moon Queen Cilia, and the Magroach, Pradhiri Ra, the Harlequins began their hunt for clues within the domains of the Shrike Lord, Vile Menshas, the Windgrave Keep. Performing Ursilis' rendition of the fall of the Eldari, the Penumbra. Within the amber wing of the fortress, this difficult production attempted less than 100 times over the millennia would require volunteers to play its parts. Driving Ulfanir Yagara mad with his involvement, the Harlequins saw no cause to suspect him for the crimes commit against the Craftworld. Turning their attentions to Archon Caseus, as they once more performed the Penumbra within the Emerald Wing. Experiencing sensations of unconditional love for the first time in his bleak existence, so too did Caseus become overwhelmed by the intense retelling of the tales of the Eldar gods, that the spirit of Cain took hold of his body, causing a bloodbath to ensue. Enacting their final attempt to complete the performance within the Onyx Wing of Windgrave, Modley confronted the Shrike Lord, playing the part of She Who Firsts. The remainder of his troop demanding the Drukhari flee, each dressed as the Eldar Pantheon, as they staved off Slaanesh's wrath, imbued within Motley. Their reenactment of the fall of the Eldari complete, Death Jester Pradhiri Ra struck down the Shrike Lord, holding aloft a Spirit Stone as a means to save his soul from the Perfect Prince. Giving Motley the stone, which was swiftly swallowed by the smiling renegade. Not even the death head of their troop could conceal his horror felt, witnessing the price paid to prevent their own souls from being surrendered to She Who Firsts. Motley's actions hereafter, unknown. Perhaps the smiling god shall smile upon his peculiar subject at the time of his death, snatching the soul of this aloof minion from the clutches of Slaanesh.